All right, so I'm about to conduct an interview with Brandon Henderson. He is the JV head coach, football coach for North Pitt High School, as well as the assistant coach for the varsity team, and then he also does a little bit of the track and field program as well. So Brandon, it's nice to have you on the line here. I appreciate you taking your time out of your busy day and doing an interview with me. So if you don't mind introducing yourself, your name, roughly how old you are, if you want to share it, and then a little bit about it, your background.
Yeah, my name is Brandon Henderson. I'm 27 years old. I've been playing football roughly my whole life. Started when I was about 10 years old. I've always been around sports. That was kind of always my passion. I really like to, be around other players and help them learn the game a little bit better and just, be a better man growing up. I feel like football is a very good sport. It's a good learning sport. So that's kind of how I fell in line with being the coach and everything. So.
Okay. Let's go down the list here. I've some questions for you.
All right.
Could you describe your job title, as assistant coach to the varsity and head coach? What are some primary responsibilities you take on in each role?
Well, obviously, number one being all the players, that's my responsibility, whether they get hurt or, let's say, for example, they don't do good in class. I'm responsible for staying on them.
That's on
outside
both
of their
teams.
home life.
That's on both teams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So mainly just, making sure that the kids are safe, making sure that they're, performing their best of their ability. And like I said, keeping up with grades. I'm a big believer in student comes first, athlete comes second.
Yep.
If your grades aren't good enough, then you're not going to be able to play or participate in the sport. So
cool. So you're just varsity for JV, or you're head coach for JV.
correct.
So that's well rounded. I'm assuming strength and conditioning, defense, offense, that the whole 9 yards, kind of management as well.
A little bit of everything.
Yep. And then as assistant, or a secondary for the varsity team.
Varsity, yeah.
What all do you do there?
So as far as, assistant is a lot different than head, being a head coach rather for JV. Obviously the guys are a lot older. Some of them are a lot more athletic, stronger, faster, agile, and they're on the road of trying to get, D1 scholarships or getting colleges to look at them. My job is to basically just make sure, again, that they're playing to the best of their ability, making sure that they're punctual, grades are good, everybody's safe, and just making sure that we're putting them on the right track. Considering it's a assistant position, I don't really have a whole lot more jurisdiction over some of the players, whereas for JV, being a head coach, I'm kind of head guy in charge. But for varsity, there's a different dynamic as far as headspace and the players compared to JV. So
yeah, as there should be. I'm really curious to know what a typical day kind of looks like. I know that you're really into lifting and we kind of talked previous to this interview, but for the recording, I kind of want you to elaborate on what your day looks like. What time do you wake up usually? How many times you hit the gym? I mean, even you can go into what do you eat in a day? Like, what's your diet looking like as a coach? I want to know what Brandon Henderson does when he wakes up to when he goes to bed.
So upon waking up, I get up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm a big believer in, staying regimented in all aspects of life. Having a good solid routine. I feel like it builds a good foundation. So I get up at 5. I make breakfast, usually consists of egg whites, a couple of whole eggs, a couple pieces of toast, maybe some oatmeal, depending on how I feel that day. Fruit, making sure that I get my nutrients, vegetables, fruits. And then after that, I go ahead and I hit the gym, knock my cardio out for the day, and then after cardio, go back home, shower, get ready, head out to the school, and we start doing strength training early in the mornings before the players go to class. And then after that, we get ready for the afternoon practice. So going over the fundamentals, running over plays, watching film, conditioning, strength training on top of the additional strength training in the morning. And then once that is all said and done, I go to the gym myself, and I go ahead and I lift. I eat about, we'll say 4 to 6 meals a day.
Jeez.
Considering, being a coach, it's kind of hard to get meals in on the go. So I just meal prep, throughout the weekend, and it kind of saves me a lot of time and making sure I can hit my goal. And like I said, stay regimented to my diet and my workout plan and everything, and live a good, healthy lifestyle. And then once I get done at the gym, I go home and I eat my meal prep, and I might revise some plays, maybe watch some film myself, see what we need to work on the next day, or, the next game rather. And then I go to bed about 10 o'clock. So
Yeah, that's assuming you either didn't have a game, I'm assuming, right?
yeah, correct. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're pretty well rounded, and as a coach should be, trying to set a good example for those players, and waking up early, good diet, going to the gym. Why would a coach inflict something like, why would the coach make players work out twice a day when he or she doesn't do it himself, right? And so I'm a big believer into that, and I can kind of gravitate to where you come from on that, and I applaud you for it. Going on to the next question here, what are some challenges you face on a daily basis in your position? I know that some things, like, students can get a little out of hand sometimes, and the coaches can get a little irritated at each other, for doing the wrong call, or little things like that. We know that life happens, right? But kind of like personal challenges. What do you figure out that becomes a problem on your everyday life?
Well, for starters, I would say for right now, the main factor that I'm trying to work on and to basically engrave into the players' heads is communication. I try different forms of communication so that we can get certain points across, certain plays across, just to make sure that they understand and they're in the know. Because, we don't want them to, come around on the field and they don't know what they're doing. That would be one challenge that I've run into quite frequently. Another would be sometimes me and, other coaches, we have disagreements. Nothing too detrimental, but, life, like you said, life happens. We all are human. We all think differently at times.
Yeah, I'm sure there's times where you say the wrong play, or you pick the wrong play that you think is right in the time, and then it's like a coulda, shoulda, woulda, after the play's done, and then somebody's like, "Hey, well, I knew we could have ran this play instead, right?" I bet you that gets kind of tense at times on the sideline.
For sure, and it can be frustrating, but like I said, we're all human. We all have differences, but we all come to an agreement at the end because we are a team and we're coaches. We're setting an example for all the players. So for them to look at us and be like, "Oh wow, both of our coaches are arguing on the sideline during a game," that's not really a good look, especially for a high school football team. So those are some of the challenges that we're facing right now. Nothing too crazy or detrimental, but like you said, life happens.
Yeah. All right. How has the job, at your football job, or the football industry changed over the years? So since when you started playing football, has the football world kind of changed as you've progressed, from a player and then to a coach, or do you still see it as, oh yeah, I used to play football, or what I'm trying to ask is is when you were a student athlete to transitioning and now into coach, do you look at things different or the same?
In certain scenarios, you could say either or. So now that I'm, on the other side of the ball, or I'm on the sideline watching everything else and I'm not in the game playing, I kind of get a bird's eye view of everything. So when I was playing and growing up as well, it was more team oriented. Nowadays, you see more players not necessarily idolizing, but obviously we know social media has taken over the world. That plays a very big part in today's game, as it does in any other sport in today's world. So that being said, I mean, when I was playing, everybody was there for the team. Everybody did things for the team. And nobody, the old saying, there's no I in team, which, reverting back to the previous question, that is also another problem that we're facing, is a lot of the players don't contribute together. More so, it's just, oh, well, I'm going to do this because it's going to help me out and not, anybody else. So it's more of a selfish kind of act, so to speak. So with that being said, that's one thing that has changed ever since I became coach. And I've kind of, noticed it. But, I mean, when you're in the game and you're playing, it's kind of hard to tell. So
do you think the future of football still kind of looks the same, or do you think that there are kind of big things coming, in your opinion?
I mean, I feel like for the most part, it's pretty much the same. I wouldn't say that it's like going downhill by any means or anything like that.
Oh, no way.
It's there's always room for change. There's always room for improvement. And in today's world, I mean, things change pretty much every day. So,
well, I mean, if you had the chance to start over, would you? Like, if you had to choose a different career other than coaching, would you, or would you still want to be coaching football?
I think I would definitely still be wanting to coach football.
Why's that?
I mean, like I said, I have a very, very large passion for it. I mean, growing up, it's kind of hard to step away from something you've been around for your entire life, especially something that you put so much effort and work into to get to where you are,
Yeah.
To just throw it all away, it's kind of absurd to me. So
what advice would you offer somebody who's looking to become a football coach, like in the high school levels?
Well, right off the bat would probably be being what's the word I'm looking for? Patient. Being patient is probably the main thing in that sport, because a lot of things can happen. A lot of players are very hard-headed, so it can kind of get under your skin a little bit. I would say understanding patience, understanding communication, and just looking after them as a whole, making sure that all the players are, like I said, going back to the very first parts of the question previously, making sure that they're safe and making sure that they're being accountable for their actions and being responsible on the field and off the field.
Kind of looking back on your past, is there anything that you wish you had known before you began your career? If so, what was it?
Off the top of my head, I can't really think of a whole lot.
I mean, it sounds like when if you grow up as a football fanatic, you kind of already know you're not going into it blind, and so
you have
the sport in its entirety, right? And if you grow up around it, there's not much in the dark. You're going into a lighted room, and you're basically just taking a position, and at the end of the day, a coach is different than a student athlete, and I feel like a coach is one of those things that you can't really learn. It's one of those things, or you can't really teach somebody. Somebody has to learn it on their own as they go. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely correct. It's definitely I guess you could say, self-taught position or career. But I mean, like you said, you can't, if you're around it your entire life, you have some understanding to the game and how the fundamentals work and how, I guess, what you could say levels to everything. You're like, you're not going in there blind. It's not like you're just getting dropped off and you're like, okay, here, figure it out. I mean, you have some sort of idea and understanding in like what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, it's just a matter of transitioning from being that student athlete to actually now teaching and coaching student athletes.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay, that's awesome. How do you prioritize player development, both on and off the field as student athletes? Those players, they're basically, they're everything to the team. Every little piece matters. The team's only as strong as the weakest link. But how do you prioritize development, in the classroom and also on the field?
Well, I mean, for starters, like I said earlier, if a player is not meeting their academic expectations or they're acting up in class, there's consequences with every action that you do. On the field, off the field, it doesn't matter. Even though you're in the classroom and what you're doing in school is not pertaining to football, I mean, consequences still can happen. So let's say a player has to remain or has to have a C in any class that they have. And if at one point in time that grade gets below a C, they don't start or they don't get any playing time. Or let's say they act up in class or they're being disruptive. Again, consequence is they're not going to start, they're not going to play. Mm-hmm. And there's extra conditioning at practice.
Well, I applaud you for upholding those standards because, not a lot of I actually come from experience from my high school coach. He would say one thing and do another. And at the end of the day, that didn't really help our team, grow and prosper. Like, he could make us run laps all day long. But at the end of the day, we were not really abiding by what he taught. Like, we didn't take him seriously because at the end, we just didn't develop as a whole. Like, we did not bond. We didn't do anything together except for run, and that doesn't do anything. That just makes you hate the coach.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
Going on to the next question, how do you approach building team cohesion? So like that bond that I was just talking about. How do you build that? How do you make sure it's being built? And then also, how do you foster a positive team culture? Because I know that your program's very diverse. So how do you get those kids to, one, bond together, and two, have a positive environment?
So, I mean, for one, the team as a whole is split up. So you have offense, defense, special teams. Mm-hmm. In each group, all the players are constantly around each other. They're always practicing together. They're their own team inside of the team, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So the way that we kind of distribute it is defense, offense, right? Both sides of the ball, constantly together, constantly practicing. I mean,
so they're really, you can kind of just, put them together and they kind of just work together as is.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, we put them together and we give them plays to run. Yeah. I mean, just like
I'm assuming they're all buddies team. Too, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, of course, like over time, you're going to make friends on the team and everything. And sometimes there are differences, but
so how do you combat those differences? I mean, bickering is such a high school thing, right? So how do you maintain positivity out there?
Well, I mean, as a coach, my main thing is respect, right? Mm-hmm. As it would to be to anybody else. You respect me, I respect you. So let's say, for instance, we had this incident one time that a couple of players had some disagreements. They were bickering back and forth, chirping at each other, and they almost got into an altercation, or a physical altercation, rather. And I don't tolerate that at all. Neither does the rest of my coaches that I work with. So immediately we stop practice and we all get together and we all use that as a lesson, right? And big believer in your actions carry consequences. So, with that being said, they both had an altercation. They're both on the same team. Instead of talking it out, they wanted to fight each other. So we made them both run. And they became buddies after that because we made them run so much together.
They kind of just, set apart their differences and said, hey, look, if we're going to run, you might as well enjoy it while we're doing it.
And they kind of realized that, there was no reason for them to do what they did. So, needless to say, the consequence or the action that we took was effective.
God, I hate running. What strategies do you employ to handle high pressure situations? So I know that coaching is stressful, of course. I want to know more about the varsity side. So as an assistant, listening to that head coach, it can be stressful sometimes, right? And how do you handle high pressure situations when you're in critical moments? Say you're in overtime and it all comes down to the players looking up to the coach. You're in the huddle, and how do you manage that? Like, what do you do? Like, do you do some yoga at home, or what do you do? What do you do to handle some high pressure situations, man?
The main thing is to stay calm. If you're not calm and level headed, you can make choices that you instantly regret, right?
Yeah.
Or it might even cost you the game.
Impulse.
Yeah. An impulsive decision could change a lot of things, and then once it happens, you can't change it. So definitely staying calm, level headed. And this is going to sound kind of outlandish, but you just have to use your best judgment. You got to think of it as you're the coach, you're in charge. The players are looking up to you. They come to you for the plays because you're the one that knows more than them.
Yep.
Well,
you're the leader. You're the guy that sets the example.
Correct. Exactly.
Have you ever broken, in a high pressure situation? Have you ever, just had a moment where you had to walk away for a second?
Yeah. I'm human. Everybody can crack under pressure at times.
It makes sense. Let's see. In what ways do you collaborate with the other coaches? So, how do you? Let me try and reword this. How do you, outside of practice, collaborate with the other coaches to make sure that you are putting the best foot forward, as in overall success for your team? Do you guys sit down and have a meeting and say, okay, Jaden is our number one guy. He needs to play 24/7, or do you guys watch film together and decide there? Like, how do you go about doing that? How do you go about putting your most successful players on the field? Like, how do you do that with the other coaches?
So when our players are in school, we have coaches meetings quite frequently. We watch film together. We discuss, what players are, lacking or what they need to work on. Because each player that's up there has potential to be great, right?
Yep.
So we just kind of sit down and evaluate the team as a whole, on the JV side and the varsity side. We use our resources. We watch film constantly. We have, I would say, about 3 to 4 coaches meetings throughout the week. After every game, we automatically have a meeting that following day, either before or after practice when all the players have left, just to evaluate our, decisions that we made on the field or during practice, just to make sure that we're giving them the best advice and making them live up to their full potential on the field.
Okay. It sounds like, you guys got a pretty good team this year too.
We're working on it.
How do you balance being a coach? I know coaching is a lot. Like you said that, you're working out with the guys twice a day. And then on top of that, you might have a game at night. You gotta have a personal life. What are you doing?
Yeah. That's the one thing that I kind of ran into as far as a huge obstacle of mine when I first took on the position. Saturday and Sunday is that's a me day, and even still I might still be watching film just because, like I said previously, I've been around it my whole life. I eat, sleep, and breathe football. So Saturday and Sunday, roughly, because most of the games happen on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, I take that time to spend time with my family, or like go see my mom or something. Take her out to lunch. Hang out with some of my boys that I hang out with or grew up with, and even played football with back in high school. But it is difficult to balance, your life or your social life, personal life, and then also being a coach.
Yeah, so that weekend, it really means a lot to you.
Oh yeah, and it's good to have a balance. So then you're not brain fogged when you come to practice and you're trying to decipher of what plays to make and basically clear mind, just so you can make some good decisions.
It's funny, I had a old boss. His name was George, and this is when I was a personal trainer. But he used to go home on Saturdays and Sundays and turn off his phone and just, either lay in bed or lay on his recliner and just fall asleep, and nobody could bother him with all the lights off. And those were his days to de-wind. So it sounds like you kind of got the same thing going on.
Yeah, it's definitely needed depending on how the week goes.
Especially with high school kids. I mean,
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but I was a high schooler once, and I was doing everything I could to piss off my coach.
Oh, I mean, I was right there with it too, so I kind of understand it. It's kind of like karma.
Yep.
But
it goes around, comes around.
That's right.
All right, let's see here. What are some long-term goals that any coach can set? Whether that may be, hey, in 3 or 4 years, I want to be, undefeated because these freshmen coming in are going to be great on varsity, when they're seniors. Or, in 10 years, I want all new equipment. Like, what are some basic long-term goals? I don't know if you've set any, and it's fine if you haven't, but, if you can think of some, kind of just share with me what might be some long-term goals that you have for your program.
Well, I mean, obviously we want to win a championship.
Yep.
Right.
As everybody does.
Correct. Yeah. That would be one thing. Another one is making sure that our star players are getting the looks that they deserve from different college coaches. You can kind of pick, or not necessarily pick, but you can kind of tell and see what players are truly in it. Yeah. I mean, they're truly in it. They're not just there because, it's something to do after school, or,
Right.
I'm going to just try it out because all of my friends are doing it. You can tell, it's evident.
So from day one, you're trying to give those players who give their full, 100% effort, and they actually have potential. You want them to actually be seen by them scouts. So when they're seniors, they're already signed, ready to go.
Exactly.
I love that. That's awesome. And that's a great goal. I mean, that you as a coach, the best thing to do is set up your player's future. A player is only as good as the coach, right? You could have an outstanding player, but you could have a shitty coach, and part of my language. But it won't mean anything, right?
Right. No, you're exactly right.
I mean, I'm going on to my back page of the list here. We're almost done. Hang in there with me. I know it's a lot. How do you approach recruiting? I know that you're at a school, but after all this time, as a coach, you can't just have like a flood of people always come in. What do you do to kind of recruit? Like I know that freshmen always come in, right?
Yeah.
But not every freshman knows, hey, maybe I might be good at football. Like, I was 6'4" going in as a freshman, and I was never ever considered or talked to about football, right?
Right.
You know, given I was 140 pounds, so I was not anything like I am today. But you know,
Right.
what do you guys do? Do you got like players that go out and talk while they're in classes and like try and like inside recruit, or do you do it yourself? You do a fundraiser? Like what? Tell me what goes on there.
I mean, there's about 3 different ways that we do it or go about it. We do have like an inside recruiting process. We'll have senior players go around classrooms, and I mean, clearly not being disruptive to the class, but we have a time scheduled and set up to where they can go in there, they can talk about the experience, they can talk about their testimony of why they started playing and how much it's helped them being in the sport. It could be keeping them out of trouble or, just helping them do something to get their mind off of different things. And then as any other sport in the high school, we have tryouts as well. So, and then from there, we kind of weed out who really wants to be there and who is just there to waste time,
You kind of, I mean, do you have just like how many people do you get per tryout? I mean, is it a lot?
The most that I've seen it so far was about, at one time, not a part of the team, was about close to 70.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that was, I mean, that's not a frequent occurrence, it's just that was a one-time deal. And we actually ended up doing really good that season, but
I mean, yeah, because you get to pick and choose,
Yeah, I mean, we got pretty much pick of the litter, if you will, but
yeah, maybe that makes sense. I know that players, since we're on the topic of players are especially difficult towards coaches. I don't know why, and you might know the answer, but players love to test people, right? They love to test the coach and test the knowledge of the coach. And
oh yeah,
when they get shut down, it might be a little bit like demotivating. When they do bad on the field, it's demotivating. What do you do to keep those players motivated 24/7?
Positive reinforcement. That's probably the main thing. I mean, let's break it down. Be honest here. They're teenagers. There's a lot of hormones going on. If they are in the game, they truly love the game. They care. I mean, for one thing, it shows that they care that much. If they get discouraged from something that they did or didn't do, it shows that they truly care and they truly want to be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So positive reinforcement is probably the main factor in keeping the motivation or in the team rather. Like let's say the quarterback throws a bad pass or throws an interception, or he's not just having a good game. He's been having been a good player all season. He's had a couple rough games, rough patches throughout the season. He gets a little discouraged. We don't point it out in front of the team because that doesn't help anything. If anything, it makes it worse. So in practice, we, pull them aside. Hey, look, we know you had a bad, game. Don't sweat it. It happens. There's always room for improvement. Let's get back to work and let's, put you back on the field for what you were meant to do. And that's be great.
Is your team involved in the community at all? And
what do you do? A couple of fundraisers here and there throughout the community.
I think I saw it was maybe 2 years ago. There was some type of car wash going on.
Yeah, so in the past we've done car washes, and then we've also done, I think we said in that other interview, we did the coupon books, going around to, different various neighborhoods throughout the summer when we host our mini camp, and we get a group of players together, or I guess various groups of players together, and they just go around the neighborhood selling these coupon books, and then also the car washes. So
Okay. I actually have one of those coupon books on my desk at home.
Oh, yeah, they're very much
you've been doing a good job.
Yeah.
Especially getting those out, and they're actually pretty neat, so I applaud you for that. I know that success is a big thing for a football team, and especially as a coaching staff, but do you measure success beyond wins and losses?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm not really kind of person to sit here and be like, oh, like we have to win every game. There's going to be some losses, right? So if we have a successful practice, there's hardly any errors, or we have a successful game, for example, but we still lose. We didn't commit, that many errors. Let's say we lose by one touchdown, right? That's still a win in my book because it shows that, when they were practicing, they knew exactly what they were doing. Sometimes the opposing team, there's better players, or our players had a off night or something to where they weren't focused on the entire game, even though there wasn't that many errors, that we, still pulled through and gave it our best. And that's all you can do at the end of the day. I mean,
So you take the little wins too.
we take the little wins. Absolutely. You have to. And that goes and we teach that as well with the team, on the field and off the field and just in life in general. Because a lot of these young men, I mean, some of them don't really have very good, role models, if you will, or people that they can look up to. So we try to set a positive example on the field and off the field pertaining to life or, work or whatever the case may be. I mean, we don't just strictly talk about football, if you will.
Yeah. I have probably about 5 or 6 more questions for you, then I'll let you go.
All right.
I know we've kind of talked about the dynamics and demographics of what being a coach is and what it takes to be a coach. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit. Like I've said to you, this whole interview is backed by a topics and management class. But I want to tie the management portion into some of my questions here. Whether that may be managing a team, managing resources. I kind of want to tie that in and shift gears a little bit. So let's see here. So when you are share me a time when you had to make a tough decision regarding a player selection. So whether it be in tryouts or maybe even it wasn't a player selection, maybe it was a team strategy, a selection, like a tough decision. And how did you manage that situation?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question.
So let me repeat it again, just so I want to be hyper clear because I kind of stuttered a little bit.
Right.
Share me a time when you had to make a tough decision regarding player selection or team strategy, and how did you manage it?
There was one instance at tryouts one year. We had 2 players that were both going for the same position, both phenomenal young men, great heart, great work ethic, hustled, and they both went for about tit for tat. And what came down to it was academics, right?
Who could stay on your team, more according. Yeah, okay. I bet. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and like I said, they were both great football players. Had the best heart you could ever find on the field, right? But I mean, without academics, there's no sport. You know,
there's no foundation because they aren't even allowed to play.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, like, let's say they're phenomenal football players, and let's say, come senior year, they're getting ready to go to college, right? And we get a recruiter come out there from some D1 school, and they're looking at the players, and they're like, wow, like, they're playing phenomenal for this, this football team compared to all the other teams out there. Like, they give it their all. They're an outstanding player. They know their craft. They have a good foundation. However, they have to have a certain GPA in order for them to receive a scholarship or receive even an offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, without the academic part, you can't exceed past your expectations that you have for yourself as a player.
That's crazy because I before you even said academics, yes, you have been saying student athlete, but I wouldn't even think to check their grades when they're trying out. You know, I feel like that's something that a lot of people would overlook because, you know, yeah, you might have, you know, two guys that are insane, but, you know, if one's failing or on the borderline of failing, he can't take on a afternoon sport, morning and afternoon. Like, you know, this kid's going to be exhausted, even fail even more.
Exactly.
You know?
They're not going to turn in their homework assignments or anything or study for their tests that they have that day.
You're just preparing him to fail.
Correct. And that is not what we want to teach.
That is so smart. I honestly didn't even think about that. Moving on here. Can you share any strategies you use to effectively communicate goals and expectations to your players? So, you know, what do you use? Is it just verbal? You know, is there any type of any way that you actually specifically say something, or you kind of just, you know, blunt say it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for the most part it's verbal. I could say that, you know, for the JV team, everybody wants a starting position, right?
Yep.
Or everybody wants to be a part of the JV team, but they want to move up to varsity before they get to the, you know, their junior year of high school, because that's when you transition into varsity. So what we do is, you know, if we have a player that wants to start, we give them a chance, and they get to prove to us why they should be a starter on the team, or why they should get more playing time, or I mean, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, same goes for varsity, but I don't have that much jurisdiction as far as, you know, being an assistant coach. I can give suggestions to the head coach or one of the offensive coordinators.
So how do you set the expectations for that JV kid?
I mean, if they're not hustling or if they're not putting in any effort, I mean, obviously they're not going to get the spot.
So it's already kind of like a known expectation.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like once you get on that team and you say, hey, coach, I want more playing time, or hey, coach, this is XYZ reason why I deserve more playing time. Okay, show me. Let's see it. Mm-hmm. And then if they live up to their word, or they stick to their word and they show that that's why they need to be up there, they got it. They earned it. They deserve it.
Yeah. That makes sense. Can you discuss the approach to risk management? You know, how do you manage the risk and ensure the safety of your coaching to the staff and the players? So, you know, while you're out on that field, even while you're not even on the field, what are you doing? What are the steps that you're taking to make sure that, you know, one, players aren't going too hard to hurt other players during practice, because, you know, your player ain't good hurt, right? And, and two, you know, even between like the staff, what are you doing to do risk management there? I know that, you know, you guys bicker every once in a while, but, you know, is there ever times where you have to step in between and you know, take a breather and, you know, tell me a little bit about, you know, I want you to go on to the players portion of it and then go on to the staff portion.
So for the player portion, it's more or less making sure that they know how to perform basic fundamentals of tackling or ball handling. Obviously, it's not the best idea to lead with your head when you're tackling somebody. That's that's the most number one rule that we try to, and you would be surprised at the amount of students, or players rather, that want to lead with their head and they just think it's okay.
Yeah, you'd be like
there's
Gronk
no
out
risk
here.
to it. Yeah, I mean, like, it's crazy to even see or think about. Like, you wouldn't even believe it if you went out there and saw it yourself. But, I mean, just learning the basic fundamentals, making sure that they know how to tackle, making sure they know what side of, you know, that opposing defender or, you know, offender, what, you know, side to lead with their head, making sure that, you know, they're safe, making sure their gear is, you know, up to date, making sure that, you know, I guess you could put it in terms of like quality control for the equipment. You know, if there's an equipment malfunction, that's on us. You know, that's not the player's fault.
What about the coaches? You know, if there's, any type of bickering? Are you the type to, step in and say, "Hey guys, take a breather"?
Oh yeah, I definitely try to mediate. If there's some sort of difference or bickering going back and forth, because I mean, like I said, man, we don't want to give that example to our players.
Oh yeah.
We try to teach. Team, you're a family. You win together, you lose together, you hurt together.
Yeah.
So if we have a disagreement as far as coaches go, I mean, some coaches like to team up against others, but I mean, at the end of the day, we all come together and we realize, hey, like, this isn't what we really need to be doing. This isn't what we need to portray to, our players, because you don't want to go back on your word, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
You don't want to contradict what you're teaching out there.
Well, that was my last question for you. I know it was a lot, and I know it was, vigorous, and I know it's late at night, but I really do appreciate you coming out here and giving me your input on why you became a coach and the different things and tactics you do and strategies. You've definitely opened up my eyes more, and hopefully whoever watches this video will be wowed by all your answers. So thank you again, and hopefully I'll come out to one of your games and see you live action.
Oh yeah, man, we'd love to have you out there.
All right, you have a good one.
Yep, you too, man. Thank you.